It's working? Yes. Hello. If somebody tell me 10 years ago that I will do my own opera and I will sit here and talk to another opera director, I would think you're crazy. You know, performance artists have to hate theater, opera, and everything else. But, you know, when you do enough performances like I've done in my life, I become very, very experimental. And I really, opera is such interesting kind of art form. And for you, doing opera, and I saw yesterday rehearsal, we have to be very careful to the audience who are going to see opera tonight, not to reveal who is the killer on the end, like in the movies, then you don't go. So I would try to do my best. But my last question is for you, the first question I want to ask you. What means human for you?
To start with an easy question. Am I wrong?
My works perfectly. You can, shall I give you mine?
Yeah. Okay, thank you. That's not an easy question to start with, but I'll give it a time. What makes us human? Well, actually, it's the central question in the opera as well. Do we need a body to be human? Because in the opera, the main character decides to upload himself, to upload his mind into a virtual entity. And I mean, I think the opera kind of researches that question and tries to find an answer on that. Do we need a body to be human? Where does our identity reside? Where does our soul reside? Do we have a soul? And I mean, if you copy someone's brain, I mean, do you copy the entire personality? So, I mean, these are all questions I ask and don't necessarily give an answer to it. But I think it's more interesting to ask the question and to have the audience themselves find their own answer to them.
But to make such a complex work, I always think every artist who does something about and making the work always comes somehow for the personal background. It starts for your own childhood, your own traumas, and I'm just interested to create such a very, very complex work. What was your background to actually even start to conceptualize, upload?
I mean, I guess it goes back to my childhood, and my mom hates when I start telling this story. But I was having nightmares as a child, like terrible nightmares and sleepwalking. And the village doctor in Holland, in north of Holland where I lived, he said, well, maybe he should play an instrument, and that might help sort of get rid of that energy. And I started playing classical guitar, and my nightmares stopped. So for me, I think creating things and dealing with transforming my maybe traumas, fears, love into art helps me stay sane, I think.
But you didn't tell me anything really personal. Let's tell really some personal story here.
Yeah, I mean, you want to hear about terrible traumas? I don't really have terrible traumas. It would be great for this conversation.
Not terrible trauma, but something very simple, very human from the childhood. That sometimes simple story make the audience very clear how the big great work comes from.
Yeah, that's a good question and slightly unexpected. What makes me human? Well, I think there's part
okay, just to help you, there is a there is a complex relationship between the daughter and the father. Mm-hmm. Could you reflect any of this complexity of your relationship with your parents?
I don't think it's similar to what's happening in the opera, but I think we all have complicated relationship with our parents. My dad died when I was quite young, and he was more of a traditional parent, so he sort of did his parenting more in the distance. I think sorry, I forgot the question. Drifted off there for a bit.
Okay, let's drop this all together. We go new.
Jesus, Marina, that's...
I'm not easy. So let's go on in another question that, when I saw the opera yesterday rehearsal, the first thing that I was asking, why have to be opera? Why could not be live installation? Why could not be theater piece? Why absolutely you chose the form of opera to do this?
I mean, for opera, for me, is a very flexible term. I think this is, you could also call it music theater, because there's spoken word, there's film. I'm not really interested in the term opera itself. I think if you're a traditionalist, you would say, well, this is not opera because there's film and people are talking. But for me, I mean, there are some texts in the libretto that ask to be sung, and for me, that makes opera. There's a certain heightened sense or sort of poetry to the text that almost demands it to be sung, because there's something which isn't autonomous. The text is not an autonomous thing. There's room for music to add another layer there.
To me, the entire beginning is really incredibly beautiful and transporting, especially the way how the words are said, and the difference between what woman said and what the father said, and how this actually leads you into the whole play. And the text is all written by you.
Yes.
And how you approach that? I mean, like poetry, like with a story, or how you actually, what is your working process?
Well, I have to say that there are two wonderful young Dutch dramaturgs that helped me, Madelon Kooijman and Niels Nuiten. And we worked together for about a year, and we met maybe 20 times and discussed the subject and discussed how can we find a human way into this very technological theme. And I mean, that was very important for me. I didn't want to make a sci-fi opera. I wanted to make an opera about a father and a daughter, and a very sort of humanistic point of view. So we started collecting texts, found text, poetry, medical text, scientific text, and put this all together, and then started combining things. And in the end, I from this wonderful stack of material, I made a libretto.
To me, it's so complex architectural, how you build the scenes with the screens and the mix between the video and the projections, and then the actor, filming straight directly that we can see the father upload. How long take you the whole process to create this piece? How much time to create this entire work?
Yeah, so the libretto took me about a year, and then composing about 1.5, 2 years, I would say. And while I was composing, I was already writing the film script and thinking about the staging. I mean, one of the advantages of doing it myself is that I can determine for each scene which of these layers is on the foreground and which is on the background. So not only what is the soprano singing, but also what is happening in the film and what's happening on stage, and how I can make sure to get these layers enhance each other. It's a continuous play of changing perspectives in a way.
It's such a difficult image of the future of a human being generally. Are we going to be just uploaded and our brains can function forever? Or, we're going to really be bionic? What is happening with the robotic science and so on? What is your vision, actually? Especially, we just talked a little bit before, and you say you have 2 children, and how this future of the world, in your perspective, going to look like?
Well, I'm not sure if we can stop it. It's just the neuroscience and artificial intelligence has been moving ahead so fast that I think at one point we'll come to a point that we have to make a decision how we're going to deal with this technology, and I think it's important that we ask the ethical questions in advance and not after the fact. So I think. It used to be the theme of futurologists to think that we would be able to do these things, but more and more sort of traditional scientists are now thinking, well, maybe it won't happen in 5 years, but maybe in 300 years or in 30 years. So for me, the most interesting thing is to think about the ethical implications. I mean, what if we copy someone? What are the rights of this digital being? If it's an exact copy of a human being, then it should have the exact same rights. And I mean, I can imagine there will be labor forces protecting the uploads, and there will be it will be a whole. I mean, the many changes will have to be made to accommodate for this new entity.
Then, of course, is the morality that we have to ask as inventors. Where have to be stopped and how we can continue, and when actually is no way back.
In a way, I think it's already started. I mean, we all have a huge amount of data about ourselves stored online. Through social media, we leave a digital trace already, and this is just the next sort of enhanced step of that, I think.
And you also create something which is the virtual reality piece, and then also now this is new technology talking about mixed reality. Can you tell us a little bit about this whole vision on the virtual reality, mixed reality, and what is your approach?
Well, I mean, there's certain things you can do in VR or XR that you can't do in a performance space, and I'm really interested to see how the audience member can be more than just someone that passively watches the work, but actively becomes a protagonist in the work and becomes almost a part or a central part in the storytelling. So this is what really fascinates me, and this is what I try and do in my VR work.
There's some really dramatic, I don't want to tell the story, but I have to just say there's something really hits me in this yesterday watching the piece. There's this moment when the scientists say, and now is your big day. Basically the big day, you're downloading to your brain and you're dying. And then the girl is still in the garden, and the old man asks her, but you're still here. She says, yes, they're just taking time to render my hair. This is a really, really good scientific black humor here.
Thank you.
So talking about technology, it's technology was invented that human being have more time. The human being can't have more time because he's afraid to use his time. So we become, I always think nothing is wrong with technology and how it's developing. Is everything wrong about our addiction to technology? That's where the problem stays. What is your opinion about that?
I agree. I think, well, I mean, if I look at my children and the way they're glued to their phones all day, and it's very hard to regulate or to deal with as a parent. It's almost impossible to win. And I think what I hope happens is that at one point they will decide for themselves, or they will recognize in themselves how they feel when they watch TikTok videos for an hour in a row, and to sort of become aware of their body and their nervous system, and to see what it does to them. I mean, that's my only hope, and I think as a parent, that's the only reflection or the only mirror I can give them.
Then, children more and more, they're living in parallel reality, which is actually, really devoted from emotions, the human emotions, because they believe, the video games, all the reality they do, and they are absolutely addictive. So, I mean, all of this. What you do to protect your own children out of this, or this is a road that actually we lost it, that we can't go back anymore.
I don't think we lost it. I think it's always a wave. I think there will be a counter movement, and people will really actively push away technology or free time for themselves. And on the other hand, I see how, if I see how my children, the social life, I mean, for them playing a game is also a social event. They're talking to each other while I overhear their conversations, and it's not about the game, it's about all day life stuff. I mean, instead of hanging around in the mall, they're now hanging around in Fortnite.
This piece you perform in Holland first, and now you're performing in America. I'm very interested to see how was the reaction of the Dutch people to this work.
Well, I was very happy that we got a very young and diverse audience to the show, and my favorite moment is afterwards when I usually lock myself into one of the bathrooms and I overhear what people are saying.
Finally, something we're getting here.
So if you see these shoes in the bathroom, you know it's me. No, but it's lovely because what I overheard is that people were discussing, would you upload yourself? And if you would upload yourself, what would you? And there's this thing you have to do in the opera. You have to choose a memory anchor, one defining moment that sort of grounds you and that sort of prevents you from floating away as an astronaut in space as an upload. And a lot of people were discussing their moments, and it became very personal for them. And for me as a maker, that's the most exciting thing.
But it's interesting that actually in this play, the main character doesn't want to have bad memories. He only wants to live in good memories. But thinking as a human being, the bad memories is so important because the happiness is a state that actually you don't want to change. You want to stay in happiness, but happiness will never change. In the one day, okay, you're happy, and you're happy maybe a certain period of time, and then after that, the big shoes fall down and you're unhappy again. And that unhappiness is a very big, actually, moment of learning and transformation. You know, people really change from unhappy moment. If somebody dear to them die in big accidents, if some really, you know, the children's sickness, that you really change. From happiness is a stage, there is no actually exit out of this. So I think that taking out unhappiness, you actually cut, in a way, human experience in half.
I agree, and this is one of the issues in the opera. I mean, this very advanced clinic offers to basically push bad memories to the background, and the main character is suffering from traumas, and so this is the reason that he wants to upload himself. But I won't tell too much, but it's not completely sure if it worked in the opera, and then suddenly you find yourself in a position that you cannot die anymore, so you have to deal with your trauma and your bad memories forever and forever. That's a new form of hell, I would say.
Yeah, but that memories can be transitioned into in actually understanding, but greater understanding of yourself, and actually grow. Through bad memories, you can grow. And this is kind of deprived from this upload. But I don't know if you ever heard about this. I was always fascinated about this institute. They don't exist anymore. But in south of France, there was Institute for Broken Hearts, that people who had broken heart, a terrible experience in their life, they will go there. It's very expensive, so you have to be rich. And there they put you in sleep. They put you in sleep for 3 months. You basically, the intravenous, you know, they feed you. You're in sleep. They walk around with you and they bring you to bed. And 3 months later, you wake up and you are less unhappy. Did you ever heard about this?
I haven't, but it doesn't sound like the perfect holiday to me.
It sounds like an Orwell movie or something. I don't know. But what you think? What you like the American audience to actually how to come, you know, when they see the piece, what you like them to, what kind of experience to have?
I mean, I don't think an American audience will differ that much from a Dutch audience. I think I would love for people to go in with a very open mind, and I think there are many ways you can find yourself sort of entrances to the story through the music, through the wonderful singers, Julia Bullock and Roderick Williams, who are, I mean, probably two of my most favorite singers in the world, and through amazing actors in the film. So I think there are many ways where you can find your window into the piece, and I think the most important thing is that people will start thinking for themselves and ask them these questions that the protagonist ask them yourself, you know, and that's why you're engaged with the opera. Engagement happens with the opera.
The idea of upload is actually terrifying. And last night after I came home, I really had the bad dreams about this whole thing, I have to say. It was not easy, and lots of thinking too.
But like you said, bad dreams will make you grow.
Of course. No, I'm not complaining. I'm just noticing. That's all. So as we can't reveal what's going to happen, and we're going to see now, it's very complicated to have conversation going much more into the upload. So after this, what is your next project?
Oh, Yeah, I'm making a sort of small chamber music work for actor and string quartet called The Book of Water, and it's based on a Swiss writer, Max Frisch. It's about an elderly man who's stuck in his house in terrible weather, and he's having problem remembering, and he starts writing things down on small notes, and his whole house becomes one sea of small notes, and we're performing that at the Venice Biennale next year.
You really have obsession about memory.
I do.
But it's also interesting that actually to exactly make replica of human brain is impossible. There's so much, scientists trying to do that, and only the even replica of rat brain is almost impossible. That is the most delicate mechanism that our human we possess. And there's so many people say that we use 30% of brain, but basically scientists say it's not true. We only use 20%. That's it.
Yeah, and of course, when they say they can copy a brain, do we actually believe that this is an actual copy? I mean, how can you test this? Which is also fascinating to me. I mean, if a digital mind can continue to evolve, I mean, do you still trust it's the same being?
To me, again, the very strong moments in this play, it's when the upload doesn't function and everything is breaking. It's something almost physical you feel as a public in the audience. And I really like that moment of I have to say something, come on. There is a moment when, I don't tell you how, but you are so close to them. Like that intimacy of the projection that actually you're almost lengths that you can touch them. That was very good point. I really enjoyed that. How you get this idea?
That's actually the first idea I had. Yeah. So I knew that I wanted to get to them. I mean, you get to know them through the opera, and then I won't reveal too much. But it's important. It was important for me to really almost become one with them.
I know that very shortly this man is going to jump from his chair and run to fix the sound. This way, I've been told. But in the meantime, because I really always need to have audience saying something. So if anybody has a really urgent question, I will give you my own microphone. Anybody want to ask this man, Michel, question? Yes.
Yes, curious, we talk about the brain, but there's also the gut brain. There's a primitive brain that's connected through the vagus nerve from our stomachs and our guts. Did that come into your research at all?
Sorry, I didn't hear. What type of brain?
There's another brain, we have a second brain, if you will, that's in the gut, that's connected through the vagus nerve. Was that something that came into your research or enters into your project?
Yeah, we did read about it, and actually spoke to a French scientist who is researching that aspect, and sort of his whole theory was that many of your emotions are based in your gut rather than, sort of localized in your gut. And I mean, again, that would mean that this uploading would have to take into account way more organs than just the brain. And one really can wonder, if we copy the entire body, do we still have, an exact copy of who someone is? I mean, is there something we can't capture, a soul or whatever we want to call it?
You see something and then it's two ways. It's happy ending or tragic ending. In your case, it's not either. Not happy, not tragic. You really leave us with so much questions, us as a human beings. Is that also reason why you wanted to do this work?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, for me, the asking of questions is one of the most interesting thing I think we can do in art, and I know that you do it as well. I think the more specific you get with your subject, the more people you lose in the audience. So I think you have to push the audience a certain amount of space to a window, but they have to open the window themselves and choose the window they want to open to see, to see outside and to see what it is that they're witnessing. So I think that I think one of the most wonderful things about music is that it's not specific, and it means there's no meaning in music. Of course, it's a little bit different when there is a libretto that you sing, but nevertheless, there's this amazing power that music has, that it can reach many individuals in a very different way, and move them in a very different way. And I mean, maybe circling back, this is another answer to why I think I want to make opera. For me, this enhancement of music, this enhancement of the storytelling is really a thing that attracts me so much to this art form.
In this case, you've done everything. You wrote the text, you make the music, you choreograph this entire piece. You have all visuals filmed. It's like you really didn't leave any space for collaboration. Everything is you.
No, well, there's a whole artistic team that collaborated with me on it, and I think it's a fair point. There's a certain risk in doing so many things yourself, but that's why I always have wonderful dramaturgs. Teun Mosk, an amazing designer who designed the piece. Otto Taus, the conductor. I mean, even the singers when creating it, they have a lot of input in how the piece evolves. And I often change many things, even in the rehearsal period, and even between performances. So the show that you will see here is a slightly enhanced show from the one that people saw in Amsterdam. So there's always another step made.
Which is your favorite opera in your life?
Oof. Oh dear. I wouldn't say there's one that particularly sticks out or particularly connects to me. To be honest, I'm not that fond of opera.
I'm so happy you say that. I am not fond of opera either. Because first of all, it's so old-fashioned of art. Second, is so long. I mean, you're talking 4.5 hours, 5 hours. In my case, I made the 7 Deaths of Maria Callas. I only show the deaths. That's a much shorter. So my opera is 1 hour and 36 minutes. And that's really not boring. You are 85 minutes, very good size either. So we agree on that completely.
I want, a disclaimer. Of course, there's amazing operas to be written. It's just, and I saw a lot of operas. It's just that, I think now to make opera now, I think we have all these new tools that we can use in the storytelling. And often I get asked, why do you use all this technology on stage? Why do you need it? Because Wagner didn't need it, or Verdi didn't need it. But I think, for me to add film or to add, motion capture to the stage, it's the same way that the tuba was added to the orchestra, or it's just an extra tool in my toolbox. And also, we're surrounded by technology on our smartphones in our daily lives. It would feel very artificial not to allow that on the stage.
But to me, it's also to create a new perspective on opera, kind of decentralize and make something new and fresh. Because opera mostly, it's very old audience who sing opera, and they press subscriptions, and they're always coming and seeing the same piece over and over again. So to see the young audience and look in the opera is very important. I showed my opera in Opera Garnier, just the 7 Deaths, the few months ago. And there was 2 old ladies coming the staircase down, and they look at each other and say, "Mais c'est pas classique." But this was not classic. I found this great compliment. Definitely, and you definitely is not classic either.
True.
Anybody else? Simple question. Right here, microphone is to yours.
Hi. So lots of philosophers of art or people who think about aesthetics think that there is a challenge in having an aesthetic experience when you are faced with something that you think is immoral or something that you think is wrong in some way. It interrupts the experience of beauty. And it sounds like what you're dealing with is a lot of really interesting ethical questions and the moralities of our time and our future. So how do you attend to beauty or to, the pleasure of seeing somebody sing at the same time as leaving space for challenging wrestles with ethics and morality?
I mean, one of the ways I dealt with it is that there's a lot of that sort of more technical and ethical narrative in the film, in the spoken word parts. And so when the singers are singing, it's often about very much more human, about their relationship and about the more human side of it, and the beauty and terror and trauma. So, yeah, I mean, that's also one of the reasons why I chose to use film and chose to use speaking actors in the film to make this distinction, because some texts are very strange if you sing it. I mean, where do I hang my coat, for example? It's very non-dramatic to set on music. So I choose very carefully which texts are being sung and which are being spoken.
But the entire setting is in New York. Why New York?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, when I started thinking about this piece, the Armory was the first space I thought of. We did my previous opera here 4 years ago, and I completely fell in love with the space. And I thought, okay, how do I do another piece that fits here? So for me, when I first started thinking about this work, I always had the Armory in mind, and also had these singers in mind. Julia is based in New York, so it somehow, connected to me.
So tell us anything that I didn't ask, but you really feel you should tell us, please. You're not so talkative, you know that. It's not easy.
Depends on the questions. No, for me, well, thanks for doing this. Thanks for asking me very difficult questions in the beginning of this talk, which I think is good. I think I will be in the toilets listening to what people say afterwards, and I'm looking forward to that.